week. Today is February 21st. Hopefully we got a little warm up. We might see 30 degrees over the weekend and into next week, which would be a pleasant surprise. This week's code of conduct is to drive safely, defensively, and courteously. Ben is off today, so I'm just going to put my spin on it. This is one of our biggest exposures we have out here, and with the price of auto insurance, but also just the price of body work to begin with, it's can be very costly if we don't follow the rules of the road out there. So let's remember that we're getting paid to drive to and from work and while we're on the clock, or not, I shouldn't say that to and from all the time in every scenario, but you know, really pay attention to what you're doing in those moments to be safely, to drive safe, follow the speed limits, follow the following distance for the conditions of the road, and making sure that we're hands free. We'll be talking more about hands free next week, as that's going to be our topic for next week. The rules and regs of operating a vehicle with using hands free devices. So quick little safety news, 15 from our last first aid. So good job there this past week. 141 from our last recordable, and then 14 from our last vehicle incidents. So let's keep up the good work regarding our incident front. Let's, really set the priorities properly with safety, attention to detail, working together as a team. And then that all really kind of correlates and starts off with a good JHA to start your day today. And let's work safe. This week, just kind of wanted to highlight kind of recognizing and what the regulations are. We had a couple questions pop up over this week regarding kind of holes and hole awareness. We're doing a couple different projects where actually this came up. So this is in subpart M, which is the fall protection hazard. So this regulation really comes in when we have roughly a 6 foot fall through like a whole surface, like if it's a bridge, if it's a concrete slab, if it's a roof, needs to have a 6 foot fall to kind of open up this regulation regarding what is a hole. And the standard is very, very razor thin. They're saying a hole is anything more than 2 inches or more. So it's very, very small. But again, what we have, and it happened to a lot of scenarios on our projects, was we had these kind of small holes, but we didn't have the 6 foot fall. But so those still causes tripping hazards. So I'm going to talk about best practices in a minute here, but that kind of triggers anytime that we have a 6 foot fall underneath a hole, we got to try to use protection here. So hole protection. Each employee on a walking or working surface shall be protected from tripping in or stepping into through holes by covers. So that's the easiest thing to do is, use a traffic sign, a piece of plywood, some planking, whatever it may be, to protect that hole, write it in so individuals know that there is no hard surface underneath. Usually it's type of wood that it's being protected. Sometimes we use steel plates as well. Our safe work practices and how do we want to cover this moving forward is try to cover these things as soon as possible that they're created, clearly identified by spray paint, hole or cover, or it can be a verbal if the site is small and can be controlled, but especially if it's a multi-employer job site where there's a lot of different people around, clearly identify in those situations. Use materials that support twice the weight of the load. So again, we don't want to use really small, just random dunnage that say it's a piece of plywood that's extremely been used and abused, has a lot of cracking in it, stuff like that we don't want to use. We want to make sure that it's the right type of lumber that can support twice the load that we might be putting on it. We want to make sure that it's somewhat secure. It doesn't have to be fastened into concrete or anything like that, but it needs to be able to make sure it doesn't easily get moved, anyone walking or moving around it to then open up that hole for a potential fall hazard or trip hazard. And again, best line is just that communication with our standing work practices that we kind of just talked about in our JHA. each and every morning. We did have a pretty bad incident. It was probably about 4 years ago, where it was a slab penetration on a control house in, I think it was Barrie, where we knew about it. We were just kind of moving the plywood because we actually had to do some more work inside that penetration, and the individual picked up the 2x4 or the piece of plywood and stepped right in the hole, and it was about a 3-foot drop, and created a big knee sprain. So it can happen, and it's easy to forget about these holes that we may create or we might be subject to. So paying attention and being engaged in the work is critical, and reminding one another of these type of these floor holes or these open penetrations and slabs is critical, that we go home safe and sound each and every day. Tom, you got anything to add? Pigeon, you out there?
Yep. The only thing that I'd add is even if you don't, even if it's just a trip hazard, alleviate it sooner than later. And one place I think about that is the decks on trailers and stuff like that. So if you see a hole in a deck on a trailer, not only is that a DMV issue, but it's also a trip hazard and could be a fall hazard.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit more kind of residential construction. We'll probably have some fall hazards and hole hazards when we do that type of work. All right, I'm going to switch screens here. Everybody see the meeting? Blow it up a little bit. See that?
Yep.
So yeah, safety top, hazard recognition and protection of open holes. So Melanie wanted to highlight, starting March 7th, we'll have Morgan Stanley. We'll be here, half-hour meetings available from 8 to 11:30 on that Friday. So if you want to, it's a good time of year to see where you're at with your 401k and make sure it's set up the way that you want. If you want to be aggressive or conservative, it's a good time of year. Melanie's number is there, and along with her email, you can find that time that works for you and see how you're doing. Erin would like us all to send her our personal email for a lot of the ESOP information that's coming down the pipeline. So please reach out to Erin and give her everybody's personal email, so she has that on file for a lot of the ESOP newsletters and information that will be coming soon. Continuing with the ESOP meetings every Thursday. This coming Thursday, there's going to be one from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I sat in this one this week. It was very informative. A lot of good questions by a lot of employees. So definitely take advantage of it if your schedule allows. Again, reach out to Erin. Her phone number's here, or her email's here. If you want to participate in educating yourself in the ESOP. Another little blurb here just on the email address verification regarding our personal stuff. There will be open hours for HR or benefit information, double checking beneficiaries on all of our 401k, ESOP, all this other stuff that we have beneficiaries for, life insurance. If you have any questions or just want to get to know Erin a little bit more, open hours are 2 to 4 every Friday up front in the admin building. So take advantage of that if you end out early today and you want to, you have maybe some questions or concerns regarding your beneficial information or any healthcare benefits. Take advantage of that. A little blurb here again, just on wellness program, EIC, or the ECI Employee Assistance Program, which is EAP. Take advantage of that if you need it. We got to welcome in a new employee, Eric Hyder. It's going to be a foreman on the civil side. I believe he's over at the Parkway. So if you see Eric, introduce yourself. He's going to meet a lot of us here over the next couple of weeks, but we're excited that Eric decided to join us, and so welcome him to our team. So project of the week, we're gonna highlight Riverwatch condos. It's a concrete column and slab repair, and it's going to be presented by Brad Peisker. So Brad, you want to take it away?
Thanks, Matt. So ECI was contracted with PCI to complete column and slab repairs at the Riverwatch condos in Burlington. This is over kind of by the Burlington sewer plant or on the way to Queen City Steel. Riverwatch condos consists of 9 separate buildings, each consisting of 3 floors of apartments and an at-grade parking garage. The buildings have a typical foundation and column layout, 2 rows of 5 columns, which supported the buildings above. That's just a general floor plan design that they gave us. Engineering Ventures was contracted by Riverwatch to provide a parking garage structural assessment report. The report had 3-column condition ratings, which coincided with a recommended remedial action and timeframe chart. The structural report suggested to create a set of construction drawings, which Riverwatch elected not to do, and proceeded to complete the project without construction drawings. So the 3 condition ratings were: 1, obvious deterioration, basically spalling, cracked out concrete. Condition 2 was starting to deteriorate. Generally, that was cracks or some aggressive salt deterioration at the base of the columns. And number 3 was generally a good condition, which just required pressure washing and the silane application.
Do you want to go through these condition ratings or want me to scroll down?
I think we can skip that if somebody wants. It'll be obvious in the next slides what we had.
Yep.
So the project quantity was condition 1 was 57 columns, condition 2 11 columns, and condition 3 9 columns. Condition 1 columns were the most work and required the removal of a portion of slab around the column and chipping bad concrete at the column down to rebar. ECI mobilized in early December to begin the repairs in Garage 1 and quickly found the columns to have a very narrow rebar cage and subsequently a slender section of concrete left after Class 1 chipping work. At this time, ECI informed the owner that a shoring system would be required to support the structure during repairs. The owner engaged Artisan Engineering to do a shoring plan. The columns initially were 10 inches by 14 inches, and the rebar had 2 inches or more of cover, so it really didn't leave much concrete left after we chipped. And this is the shoring plan that Artisan gave us, basically a shoring column resting on 4 6x6s, supporting the structural beams that were inside of the sheetrock ceiling. And this is the repair detail that Artisan also provided, including some 2-inch expanded or rigid insulation for frost protection. And then we infilled with the Sika Quick that I'll go over in a minute. ECI rented aluminum shoring posts and followed the plan for the shoring system. Unfortunately for the owner, this nearly doubled the cost of the project. However, given the high risk to ECI's employees, building residents, and the buildings themselves, we made the right decision. Credit to the crew for recognizing the extreme hazard and differing conditions in a timely fashion. The general sequence of work included identifying how high the column needed to be repaired, saw cutting the slabs and column, hand excavating the subgrade to depth, chipping bad concrete down to the rebar cage, cleaning up the rebar, applying a corrosion inhibiting bonding agent, forming the column overpour, pouring the repair material, which was a bagged Sika Quick 2500 with 3/8 stone, stripping the forms, and finally pouring the slabs with the same repair materials. Major factor of the work was scheduling the residents to vacate the garages in a timely manner and creating an overlap between garages to keep a steady workflow between activities while having a warm location to temper substrates and materials. A hybrid crew of heavy civil, rail, and concrete workers all worked together to tackle this project. In total, the crew hand mixed 12 skids of Sika Quick and 11 skids of 3/8 Stone.
It's a lot of mixing by hand.
It is. The pours were relatively small, so bringing in a mixer truck with minimum 3 yards or so, it just really didn't make sense. Here the guys are saw cutting the slab out. We did like an 11-inch wide slab cut to expose the bottom of the column that was buried beneath the slab, and then a horizontal cut on the column to provide a nice tie-in with the new materials. This is after chipping and hand excavating. You can see how slender the columns really get. And with our shoring posts in, provided a good backup and safety factor while we chip these out. Here's the garage. You can see we polyed off the entranceway so we could put a flameless heater in there and temper everything. And here, that's Troy there vibrating one of the column pours. We use typical forms, just as Simon's forms, so we didn't have to custom form everything. Could strip off one side and pop the form onto the next column. Here's one after it's been poured. You can see in the background, there's another column that's getting ready to forms put on. Basically, we would form up all the columns and then just move one column to the next with materials, keep a good steady pour going. This is a column that's already been poured and the guys are getting ready to pour the slabs in. We put a small rebar detail in the slabs to prevent cracking on that small section. And we put a 1/2-inch expanded foam around the base of the column to provide a bond breaker in case of any freeze thaw action. Here's another column getting ready for the slab infill. And that's the final product with a little Sikaflex self-leveling sealant around the bottom to keep the water from penetrating down.
Nice.
Chamfered all the verticals and all the horizontals to prevent cars from hitting it and chipping it out.
Yep.
I'll note that they hired somebody else to do this. I don't know who. I don't really know what happened. But they had done
No kidding.
a handful of columns, and yeah, theirs didn't come out very well. They were all cracked. They didn't chamfer them. They were not square or plumb, and so I don't know what happened there. But that's we got retained after something fell through with the other contractor. But yeah, I think ours came out well.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good winter project too. We're able to heat it,
Sure.
you know.
Was this through
Guys did a
Apple
good
Tree
job.
Bay too? Apple Tree.
Yeah, it's kind of a
Completely.
weird deal.
Why they
They
hired
were
PCI.
involved. We contracted directly with the HOA, but they were involved somehow.
Huh.
Before we get to the photo archives, Phil Forrester had a quick little agenda item for us that we missed on the rundown. So Phil, if you got do you want to
Yep.
share your screen or?
No, I just got wanted to say, so we meet annually with the crane operators in the company, and one of the things that came up at this year's meeting was talking about the rigging room and some of the things we have in there. So we do want to talk about synthetic care as the season ramps up, but a couple things I just wanted to mention about our rigging room. So annually that gets inventoried and organized by Nick and Matt, and I think in recent years it's really started to shine. The reason there's a lock on the door is because a lot of that rigging is very expensive, and it's important that it's both used in the proper application and cared for properly. So those items in the rigging room, they belong to all of ECI, and therefore they're frequently used by a variety of people throughout the year. One of the things, especially when it comes to synthetics, is that they need to be cared for properly. if they're wet or dirty, please, when you put them back, don't put them back on the shelf in a pile, or I'll leave them on the floor. Hang them up to dry, ideally at your job site where there's good airflow. String them out, just so the sun can dry them out. The grease and the sand can fall off of them, shake them out a little bit. If you have to, bring them back to the rigging room, hang them up in the rigging room. We'd rather see straps hung up in there, strung out, than just in a pile on the floor where they can get just moldy and start to rot and they lose their life.
Or
Dirt
the Phil, the bar joist outside that holds up the lean-to is in a bad spot because it's undercover and it gets some sun throughout the day too. So even if somebody hangs them out on the bar joist and gives me, well, I mean, I'll see them, but gives me a heads up, I mean,
Yep.
it'd be fine. I mean, I might even put them away, wrap them up and put them away for you if you ask nice.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's great. Ideally outside somewhere in the sun where they can dry out. But definitely never in a pile. Keeping the dirt and grease off of them is also super important. Little bits of sand can get caught in the slings and the synthetic fibers and will slowly start to cut and wear them away. A lot of times that damage can't be visible to the naked eye right off the bat, but every single time those straps get moved back and forth with a little grit, that just works its way in. And many of our slings have outer jackets, which are both there for the protection of the fibers doing the actual work. But it also makes them hard to inspect for internal damage. So it's just why it's important to really make sure we keep the grease off of our synthetics, keep the dirt off of it, wash them if we have to. If you ended up dragging them through the sand and just get them clean, get them dry.
So that,
As far as the
sorry, Phil, I keep interrupting you.
that's all right.
So that grease. So has anybody been in like an F550, like one of our 3-yarders, like one of the old ones from like 2011, like, and just notice that the steering wheel at top at like 12 o'clock is like half gone? That's because the grease eats the plastic. So that's what's happening with synthetics that get really greasy in the eyes too. It's just it eats it. So you can see it in real life in one of those trucks.
Yep, exactly. And with the synthetics, it's even more of a life or death situation than a steering wheel. So definitely want to take that into account. Second thing we wanted to just talk about, just put the rigging back where it was taken from in the room. And if anything is damaged or lost on the job site, it's there to be used, but it's also important that it just let us know if something is broken on your job site. If you lose a pin to a shackle, don't just put it back. Let me know. Have your foreman send me an email. We can get more ordered. The what happened last year a few times was we'd go in there expecting to find 4 shackles and there was only 3. And that getting especially some of that larger rigging on short notice is very difficult. So nothing wrong if something gets damaged. We just want to know, and we don't want things that are damaged being put back in that state. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick. It was something that had come up, and I hope you guys, if you guys need any help with rigging or have any questions, what's in there, please, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. A lot of good stuff in there. Jim, remember the Valentine's Day storm from 2007?
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, that was a doozy. Look at that. Woo.
How many
We even had to
inches?
hire trucks.
Yeah, look at
Wow.
this is out back. This is our
That's a monster.
filling
pile.
up our pond,
Yep.
dewatering pond or snow pond now. Look how high that bank is.
That is some snow.
Yeah.
For sure. Probably Ricky up there, somebody.
Yeah. Well, we had quite a good storm. Thanks everybody that put in the hours on Sunday to meet our clients' requirements on sidewalks and snow removal. I know everybody put in a lot of hours early this week, so good job driving and really, I mean, knock on wood, we haven't done any much damage during plowing so far. So let's keep
Don't
up the
jinx
good
it.
work and yeah, exactly. Keep staying away from and keep paying attention back when you're backing up.
Yes.
I know it gets monotonous backing and forward, and those light poles sometimes can move on you.
Yes.
Let's keep up the good work.
Okay, we can stop jinxing ourselves now.
Exactly.
Well, just trying to give you guys a shout
I
out.
was thinking that the other
You guys a
morning.
little
no
shout
light
out.
poles.
Let's not let it go to your head. Let's not let it blow up
Right.
your ego and go to
Right.
your head. Let's stay humble and let's stay focused.
Right.
Well, with that said, if you watch in a group setting, please send over attendance so we can capture it. Let's have a safe day. Let's have a great day.
Thanks, Matt.